months in music, and welcome to kind of a really quick crash course on strum guitar, actually, for kind of absolute beginners. And we're gonna kind of go through a couple things that you would want to practice if you were just starting out, and go over some things that you should know, like parts of the guitar. You've got the big body of the guitar, the neck, the head. You've got the tuners, the little white piece near the head is called the nut. The silver lines are called the frets, and each one's got a number, kind of first fret, second fret, third fret. And you've got fret dots to help you find your way around. So on the side of your guitar, you may have 3, 5, 7, 9 as far as fret dots go. And then the double dot is always kind of the 12th fret up at the on a guitar. And a lot of other instruments too. Then this piece at the bottom is called the bridge. The little white piece that goes on, it's called the saddle. The little pins that go in on the bridge are called the end pins. Some guitars have a pickguard, actually a piece of plastic right here that kind of guards against the wood. I do not. Instead, I have this thing that goes around the sound hole called a rosetta. And then you have the hole where the sound comes out, which is called the sound hole. You've got the things on the sides, which are called the sides. Thing on the back, called the back. This thing right here is called the heel, and the little piece that goes on it for the strap is called the button. You may not have one. If you're playing a classical guitar, or if you just got a guitar offline, sometimes you have to have somebody install that. And then the piece at the very end where the strap goes on is called the peg. So those are kind of the main deal. And the open strings of the guitar, I have a little memory device to help you remember that. Is kind of every beginning guitarist desires another encore to kind of remember that first string to the sixth string, kind of the skinny one to the thick one. So you got an E string and a B string and a G string and a D string and then an A string and then an E string. And normally the skinny E is called the high E string. And the thickest one is normally called the low E string because of the way it sounds. So normally I confuse people all the time because sometimes I think high and I'm thinking towards the ground because of the sound the high E makes, and low sometimes because of the low E string. And when you're first starting out, actually, you could kind of do some just really easy right hand exercises, just kind of going over these really quick. You could take your pick, for instance, and do just down ups on the E string, kind of get used to doing that. And actually, one really cool thing I like to do is kind of relate this to rhythm. So you could do kind of one down up on each string. And that's kind of the sound of something we call eighth notes in music, actually, where you kind of divide your foot tap into two parts. Kind of a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Or you could kind of work a three feel, kind of a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'm doing that with alternate picking, so I'm doing down, up, down, and then reversing that for an up, down, up on the high E string. So kind of a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, to kind of feel something called triplets. So you could kind of work 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 on each string. And you can kind of take that idea and expand it as far as you want it to. You can kind of try 4 down ups, kind of a down, up, down, up. I have an idea to get 4 notes. Those are called 16th notes. Or you could even try strange ones like 5s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of a quintuplet idea. 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 6s or 7s or 8s or 130 seconds if you want to try something really crazy. And then, so you want to practice something with your right hand, kind of get your right hand moving around. And then your left hand, normally your index is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So what you can do is work little finger combinations. And what I like to do is start with 2 finger combinations, where you could do like first finger on the first fret on the high E, and then go to second finger on that same string. Kind of a 1 and 2 idea. It's kind of a cool thing to practice. Or you could try a 1 and 3. Some of these are stretches, and you may want to play around with head angle. Actually makes the left hand a lot easier if you go higher head. Normally I'm not doing that in my videos, just so you can see the hand better, because I put a lot of titles in these things. But you can kind of work different combinations of fingers, so you may want to experiment with head angle and where your thumb is. Actually is kind of the main 2 things. If you get your thumb closer to your 3rd and 4th finger, a lot of times it'll make it a little bit easier to work bigger stretches. But you could try 1 and 2s a lot, or 1 and 3s, or 1 and 4s, or second finger to third finger is kind of a weird combination, or 2 to 4, or 3 to 4. And what I like doing is taking one combination and just drilling it like crazy. So there's an exercise I call climbing, where you kind of take the 1 and 2 and try that idea on every string, and that can be a cool thing to do on any fret, or even kind of weaving up the neck with kind of a combination. Or something else that can be kind of cool is to kind of work that up a string, kind of doing like first fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret. It's these are cool ideas to kind of try and get used to moving around. And I'm kind of sliding my first finger, so I'm not actually lifting one, if you'll notice that. So it's kind of a slide, two, slide, two, slide, one, two, slide, one, two, kind of an idea. Or you can come up with all kinds of other ways to kind of work around the neck. Diagonal shifting can be cool. So now I'm going up a fret and up a string, kind of an idea. But you could design all kinds of things. And some technical things that normally you'll see in guitar stuff in general would be doing like first finger, for instance, and kind of putting down your second finger to kind of get a hammer-on sound. Or what we call a hammer-on sound, right? It's an ascending slur kind of deal. So I'm playing the first finger with the pick, and then just putting down two to kind of get the sound to carry. It's almost like a magic trick. Or you could play the second finger, for instance, and reverse that combination, and let your finger fall off the string. And sometimes if you think straight towards the ground, that'll help you get more articulation or attack on that note. And that's called a descending slur, or a pull-off, because you're kind of pulling off the strings. And those ideas work to the open string too, kind of working just a one-finger idea. So you may want to kind of experiment with that. Or taking those climbing ideas, doing hammer-ons, doing pull-offs. The main idea is to find some ways to kind of move around on the guitar where you don't have to worry about what note you're playing necessarily. You're just kind of working just dexterity with the left hand. You know, what is it? How far are the strings apart with the right hand? And then from there, a lot of times, especially in a first lesson, I'll jump into chords so you can go ahead and be playing some songs. So some really cool chords on the guitar. One of my favorite chords is G major. And you put your first finger on the A second finger on the low E third finger on the high E third. And if you strum all those together, that sounds a G major chord that sounds really happy. There's lots of other ways to play G major. You can even put your third finger on the B string third, pinky on the high E third. That might feel a little bit better for you. And then from the G, we'd be going to an E minor chord is another good one to know. If you know G, minor, C, and D, you can play a million songs. But if you do first finger on the A second finger on the D second, that sounds an E minor chord, and it sounds really simple. You may also want to think about adding in the third on the B string third, pinky on the high E third, kind of working that for your E minor. And then from the E minor, you could work it to a C major chord. And the way you play C major, first finger goes to the B on the first fret, second finger on the D second fret, and third finger on the A string third fret. And if you strum the A string to the high E string, that sounds a C major chord, and it sounds really, really happy. Now, while you're on C's in general, it can be kind of cool to lift off the first finger, make that a C major 7. Or you could add in the pinky on the B string third, make it a C major 9, and kind of say some things around C's, which can be cool. Or another way to play C major 9, you do first finger on the D second fret, second finger on the A third finger on the B third, pinky on the high E third. And if you strum the A string to the high E string, that sounds a C major 9, and it sounds really, really groovy happy. And then from the C, a good chord to know is D major. And when we play D major, first finger goes to the G string on the second fret, second finger on the high E second fret, and third finger on the B string third fret. And if you strum the D string to the high E string, that sounds D major, and it sounds really, really happy. Now, while you're on D's in general, it can also be cool to lift off the second finger, make that a D suspended second. Or you could add in the pinky on the high E for a D sus and kind of say some things around D chords in general. And it can be kind of cool just to work just that one chord progression, actually, especially if you're just starting out, kind of that G, E minor, C, D, and I'm kind of doing 8 downs on each chord, kind of get some rhythm going on. And I'm adding a little bit of right hand music, so I'm taking the flat of my right hand and actually kind of laying it down almost on top of the saddle to give that almost kind of like a really cool, sneaky kind of quality. So you may want to kind of play around with that. Or another strum pattern that you'll hear all the time actually in guitar stuff, and one of my favorite ones is down, down, up, up, down, up. So if you took the G and just tried that a lot, you'd have down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. Now randomly that chord progression is very, very close to a song called Stand By Me by Benny King. And so if we were going to kind of try that through the chord progression, you'd almost have that G, and then you have another G, kind of a 2G idea, and then we have E minor, and another E minor, and then a C, and then a D, and then we go back to G twice, at the very, very end, and we kind of start that over again. So this might be kind of a cool song to work, just to kind of get used to doing some rhythm and progression. We're just starting out. Got a couple chords to actually in the key of A major, but this is kind of cool because it's an opportunity to go over the two other major chords that you may see on the guitar, which is an A major chord. We play A major. First finger goes to D on the 2nd fret, second finger on the G string 2nd fret, third finger on the B string 2nd fret, and if you strum all those together, that sounds an A major chord, and it sounds really happy. Now while you're on A's in general, it can also be cool to lift off the 3rd finger, make that an A suspended 2nd, or you could take the pinky and add it on the B string 3rd and have an A suspended chord and kind of say some things around A chords. Now the weird part is, another way to play A majors has something called a bar chord. And I know this can be a little bit tricky, especially if you're just starting out, but I thought it'd be a cool thing to go over with this video. And the way you play an A major as a bar chord is you do first finger across the entire 5th fret. And actually one thing you may want to play around with is kind of thumb placement. Something else you could kind of play around with is, and the main thing here is to try and keep your first finger really, really flat. And you may even want to experiment with kind of bringing your other fingers up alongside that first finger. This is something I used to call finger yoga or shadow puppets, or it's kind of like that thing you do. But it can be a cool exercise to kind of get used to your fingers kind of bending next to a first finger that doesn't bend. So you may want to play around with that idea to kind of get used to doing bars. And so it'd be a bar on 5th fret, second finger on the G 2nd or 6th fret, third finger on the A 7th, pinky on the D 7th, kind of be an A major bar chord. So it's really, really cool, but I know that can be really tricky. Trying this on electric is going to be a lot easier than on acoustic, no matter what your parents say. So if you start out on the A major, and then from the A, you'd be going to an F sharp minor. Normally you do this as kind of a bar too. You'd have a 2nd fret bar, third finger on the A string 4th fret, pinky on the D string 4th fret. And that sounds an F sharp minor chord, kind of thinking a lot of those same things. It's basically that shape we just had, but now you're lifting off the 2nd finger, which is always a dangerous finger to lift. And then from the F sharp minor, we'd be going to a D major chord, and then we go to an E major chord, and we play E major. First finger goes to the G on the 1st fret, second finger on the A string 2nd fret, and third finger on the D string 2nd fret. If you strum all those together, that sounds an E major chord. It sounds really, really happy. And then from the E, we'd be going back to our A major chord. So you could kind of work that idea, actually kind of work in either one of those strum patterns, kind of that A, just to get used to doing the bars. F sharp minor, sharp minor, D major, E major, A major. Bass line that kind of happens around that, where you could play open E, 4th on the low E, and then 5th on the low E, and then we do that again, kind of 0, 4, 5, 5, and then we kind of work it on the E string, 5, 4 to 2, and then open E, and then back to the 2 on the low E, and then we do 2 to open on the E, and then open D twice, and then we go 0, 4, 2 on the D string, and then you go back to the beginning, kind of 4, 5, 5 on the low E string. So you could even try that to kind of follow those single notes, kind of 4, 5, 5, 0, 4, 5, 5, 5, 4, 2, 2, 0, 2, 2, 2, 0, open D, 0, 4, 2, 2, 0, 4, 5, 5, 0, 4, 5, 5. And it can be even kind of cool to kind of throw in the chord around the bass line. It's almost a 2-part idea. So now it sounds a little bit more pro. So you can kind of play around with that too. Now the bar chord's actually that major shape we're talking about for A major, and the minor shape that we're doing for F sharp minor. The note that kind of gives you the name of the chord is on the E string for both of those chords. It's kind of a 5th fret on the low E string for an A note, and 2nd fret on the low E is kind of an F sharp note. And actually, there's this thing called a chromatic scale, actually, that you may want to practice too, where you could play every single note on the guitar. And actually, this would give you a way to play every single major and every single minor chord ever. What a chromatic scale is where you play every single note. The easiest way to do that is kind of take the E string and play up every single fret, and that's called a chromatic scale. And when you get to 12th fret, that's actually where everything starts over again. Like your open E and the E on the 12th fret have the same note name, so they're both E notes, which is why we mark it with two dots normally. Now, the way notes work in music, though, is you go through the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then after G, you start over again on A. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, kind of an idea. But then we throw in some things called sharps. And what a sharp is where you go 1 fret higher than you normally would. So we got an open E, and magically, E's go right to F on the 1st fret. Then you could slide that over to 2nd fret, and that's an F sharp note. On the 3rd fret, we have a G note. Then if we go over 1 more fret, we have a G sharp. Then on 5th fret, we have an A. On 6th fret, we have an A sharp. On 7th fret, we have a B. But B is magic, because B magically goes to C. So the magic notes are E's go to F's, B's go to C's. But then C has a C sharp on 9th fret. And then we have 10th fret's a D note. And then 11th fret's a D sharp note. And then 12th fret's an E note. So you could kind of work it up that string and just call it those notes. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. To kind of go over all those note names. Or sometimes in music we use some things called flats, which is where you go in the other way. So E is on 12th fret on the E. But if you went down to 11, another name for D sharp is E flat. So you got E on the 12, E flat on the 11, 10th fret still D, now it's D flat. Then you got C, which is magic because he goes to B. Then we got a B flat on 6th fret, A on 5th fret, A flat on 4th fret, G on 3rd fret, G flat on 2nd fret, F on 1st fret, and then you're back to E. So it's every note you'll ever see on any instrument actually. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. E, E flat, D, D flat, C, D, D flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E, and they always come in that order. Now the cool thing about that A major shape is that we're doing as a bar on 5th fret is you've got an A note on the low E string. Well, whatever note you're playing on the E string with that shape, that's what chord it is. So 5th fret's an A, but 4th fret would be an A flat, and 3rd fret would be a G, and 2nd fret would be an F sharp, and 1st fret would be an F. So you could take that shape and just kind of try moving it around through the chromatic scale to just get used to moving that shape. And you could really do the same thing with the F sharp minor, actually, kind of F sharp minor to G minor, to G sharp minor, to A major, or A minor, A sharp minor, kind of just taking that shape and moving it around. It's a more advanced kind of an idea, but I think that'd be a really, really cool way to kind of work that too. And the cool thing about practicing both of that, actually the Stand By Me in the key of G, which is where we started, and then practicing it in the key of A, where we ended up, you end up practicing the 5 major chords that you'll see on the guitar. So actually that's C and G and D and A and E are the chords that you'll see all the time in guitar stuff. But that's the basics of how you can kind of work some chords through Stand By Me, chromatic scale, some basic intro ideas for beginners. So that's my crash course on strum guitar. So good luck!